my spooky darlings, and welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back. If you've already been subscribed for a little while, I thank you. If not, I encourage you to please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a like on this video, please. Really helps me out. What do? Well, here on YouTube, I tend to talk a lot about witchy stuff. That's what I do. So I am a practicing witch, and here on the channel I like to talk about things that maybe some younger witches or witches who are new to the craft may not hear from a lot of other witches. I try to cover topics that maybe seem a little taboo, but at the same time I believe in knowledge, and I believe that knowledge gives you power, literally, in the case of witches. So I think it's important that all young witches know exactly what they're doing. Even if the topic seems a little taboo, you can still let them know that. I'm willing to let you know that, but I'm also not going to down you if you decide to use it. There are all types of witches, and really it is your preference as to what you want to do. As for all of that, what are we touching on today for topic? Well, today is the beginning of a series that we will be doing, that I will be doing for you, called, I actually don't have an official name for it, but basically I'll be covering all of the different celebratory days and the celebrations? Jeez. What was that? I'm sorry. The celebrations that go with them. My goodness. It's begun. Anyway. So today's is Imbolc. We're going to cover Imbolc, and basically I'll be just covering like what you can do to celebrate Imbolc. Both as a closeted witch or as an open witch, whichever you prefer. How to decorate an altar, how to do things like that, okay? So let's begin. First and foremost, let's talk about Imbolc. So I do have some notes. If you do see me kind of looking down or whatever, I will be referencing the notes because I want to make sure that I give everybody the proper advice and give you the proper information. I don't want to be giving false information, of course. So I apologize if you find me looking down. I will try not to do it as much as possible, but some of the stuff I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, we'll put it this way, all the celebrations, minus the big ones like Yule and Samhain, you know, even Mabon, I kind of know, but the others, I will admit, I'm not very versed on exactly when they take place. I can kind of reference months and stuff, but I don't know exactly when they're supposed to take place. So I will make sure I have the exact information, and if I'm looking at it, well, I'm looking at it. I've taken notes on my phone, so I do have them. So let's talk about Imbolc. So Imbolc is, it takes place so Imbolc takes place around February 4th. And it takes place, now as a rule of thumb, from what I have experienced and what I know, any celebration like Imbolc, like Yule, like Samhain, blah blah blah, right, all of our celebratory days, usually you want to have a celebration from either the day before into the actual day and then maybe into the next day, so you want to do like 3 days. Or you want to do the actual day into the next day. So you want to do a full 24-hour cycle, right? So just kind of keep that in mind when you're celebrating any of these celebratory days, okay? So we have, so it's around February 4th. And basically it is the celebration of the midpoint between Yule and Ostara, which is our kind of spring, which is a spring festival. My goodness, pardon me if I mess up, guys. I'm human. I sometimes have speech problems. So do pardon me. Anyway, yes, so it's the midpoint between winter and spring, as you call it. During this time, we're basically celebrating the upcoming of spring. So you're getting in the mood for spring, if you will, and trying to prepare for that, for new life, rebirth, that sort of thing that takes place during the Ostara, which we will be covering in a separate video. This, in addition to being that up and coming to Ostara, it is also a fire celebration to celebrate hearth and home. So it is basically you being thankful for having, you'd be thankful to, there are certain gods and goddesses that are associated with Imbolc, that you would thank them for any blessings that they've provided you over the year. You would also give them offerings and such on this day. The traditional way of celebrating, because it is a celebration of hearth and home, and it is a fire festival usually, you can celebrate it in several different ways. The traditional way was that they would go outside and light giant bonfires. They would like have the whole village out, light a bonfire, and dance from basically dusk till dawn. They would just have a big festival with food and wine and mead and all this other like just celebratory things, right? And they would do this from dusk till dawn. And they would ask for blessings from the various gods and goddesses from that day. And they would also, like I said, you would offer thanks. Now, as time progressed, you would often see people to celebrate this a little more privately. You can also light a fire in a fireplace and just have a quiet evening with family. You could do that too. And this all is for today too, by the way. So if you want to celebrate, these are varying ways that you could celebrate. You could go out with friends and have a bonfire. Make sure it's legal though. Don't do it if it's not legal. Or you could go out to your yard and have a pit fire. That's always something that's really good. Or you could stay in your house, and if you have a fireplace, you can light the fireplace as well. And you can do that by yourself, or you can do it with family or with friends. Again, that's up to you. Now, let's just get right into this, because I know a lot of you will be asking at this point in the video, well, what if I can't do any of that? What if I don't have access to any of that? Well, then you do the pocket witch style, basically, is what I'm going to call it. So you make a small, I've done this. So this was a mug that I've converted into, I hope you guys can kind of see in there. I'm taking it too far forward. I hope you guys can see in there. So this is a mug that I took and I painted. I painted it very lovely. And I glued some flowers, because flowers are a fairly big part, or can be a fairly big part of Imbolc. And I placed a white candle. So inside is a combination of white salt, rosemary, lavender, eggshells, ground up eggshells. And then these are bay leaves that I have placed in the altar, okay? So you can make one of those and put that on your altar, and then you light the candle. The suggestion is to light the candle for a full, from dusk till dawn, okay? That's would be my suggestion, and that's really what you should do, because that's the idea of the festival. if you're not comfortable, like if you are not staying up, which is another way to celebrate, right, is that you stay up all night. But if you're not able to do that, if you need to work or what have you in the morning, you can always set this same kind of altar up and put a fake candle in it. Put a battery operated one, it's fine. And then have that go for the evening. And then come when you wake up, make sure though that you wake up at dawn. So no matter what time you have to be up, like if you have to go to work or if you're just going out or whatever is happening, make sure that you wake up at dawn. So find out when dawn is. You can look that up online. It's everywhere. If you just Google it, it'll come up. Yeah. So make sure you Google that and make sure you're up at dawn to turn the candle off. You can go back to sleep if you want after that, but make sure that you turn that candle off at dawn because that's the idea, right? Do I think it's a huge deal not to turn it off at dawn? I actually don't think so, but if you really wish to be true to the celebration, then that's what you need to do. Now, another thing that you're going to want to put on your altar is a Bridget's cross. Now, you can buy a Bridget's cross. I think Etsy has a few of them. I think that if you go on even Amazon and look up Bridget's cross, you should be able to find it. I would, though, suggest that you make one. Now, making one is not easy, but there are several ways you can do it. So the first way is you can do it the traditional method, which is basically you take reeds. So you have to first go buy reeds, and you have to weave them. This is my Bridget's cross that I have made. Okay, do you see that? I hope you guys can see that. I'll try to get. You guys see that? So it's not perfect, but I did make it. So you might be asking, well, how do I make that? Well, I just took 2 popsicle sticks and put them in the form of a cross, right? And then I took some weave, some string, right, some yarn, and I just wrapped it around in the same way that you would wrap the reeds, that you would weave the reeds. But I did it on this, and I glued it at the ends. So you can do that if you want. I would suggest trying to make your own. I couldn't get a hold of reeds, that's why I unfortunately had to make this. I'm hoping to get a hold of some before the next Imbolc comes around, this next February of 2022. But I'm not sure if that's going to happen, so hopefully. But anyway, so you want to have a Bridget's cross though. Because mine is not the perfect example, I will put a picture, let's see, here. I had to figure out where it would be. So I will put a picture here of a Bridget's cross, okay? I will put a picture here. And you'll be able to see that. So I will put a picture there and you'll be able to see that. Other than that, I do encourage you, if you just Google it, you will be able to find what it actually looks like in images, and you'll be able to probably find several places that either sell it. I suggest making your own, but I suggest you make everything for yourself when you're doing witchcraft, because in the end, when you buy something, it never is as good as if you made it. When you make something, you have to put energy into it, right? Because you're concentrating, you're focusing, and you're like, yeah, you know, I'm doing this for this reason while you're making it. So that's why I suggest that you make your stuff, make all your stuff. But yeah, so this is the pocket witch altar that you can make, and you can make this whether you are a closeted witch or you're an open witch. Because if you're an open witch, you make this and you put it on your main altar. Just set it right in the center, just plunk it right down. Along with the Bridget's cross, which you can also just set either in front of it, or you can just set it somewhere on your altar. I have my altar over here. You probably can't see it. Well, you can probably see my cauldron there. That's my cauldron. You can see kind of my my cloth, my altar cloths there. But yeah, so I have mine next to my bed because I feel very connected and I want to be very connected with my altar. So I have it right next to my head, next to my bed. Anyway, so, but yeah, so you can plunk that down on your altar and just do that. But if you're a closeted witch, you don't have to use, obviously. So I had these mugs sitting around. I bought them as gifts one year and overbought. So I had a couple sitting around. That's why I did the mug. Because I thought it was cute and I thought it would be a great idea, right? But really you can use any sort of holding vessel. You don't have to use a mug. If you're a closeted witch, I suggest, like if you're trying to kind of hide stuff, you can take like a really small glass bowl and fill it. You don't even need to do all the herbs and stuff. You can just do some salt. If you can get a hold of some eggshells, that would be great. But if not, that's not really, a necessity. But you just put those in there. You put a little tea. You can buy, again, you can use battery operated or you can use real ones. Just a tea light. Set it in the center. Put 3 bay leaves in there and voila, you have an Insta altar. And when you're trying to hold it, just make sure that it's charged. And so I will touch on this now because I have to put it out there for the suggestion here. So make sure you charge it by the sun. And for this one as well, make sure that you charge by the sun. That'll prepare it, and then at night you light the candle. Closet witches, try to put it somewhere where you can get light. Doesn't have to be in a window. If you even just put it on the floor somewhere hidden, as long as the light is shining through and you have a sunbeam on it, that's more than enough to charge it. Okay? And then at night, you don't, because, like I say, if you're closeted, maybe try to use, definitely try to use battery-operated candles instead of a real candle. And try putting it in maybe like your closet, or put it under your bed, or something like that. Someplace where it can just sit overnight. That's all you need. And if you just sit there and, in terms of celebrating, you can just simply sit there and pray while it goes, if you want. You can just sit and meditate and pray over it. Again, there are several different gods and goddesses, so try to figure out which ones are maybe corresponding. I'm not going to go through them here because there are a lot. There are a fair amount that are associated from many different walks. So it just depends on what form of a witch you are, what you're practicing, who you're worshiping. That's all very personal, which is why I don't like to get into it too much, because I don't want you to think that, oh, well, I have to have them, right? You don't have to. I'm just saying to be aware that if you do worship a god or a goddess who is associated with Imbolc, that you make sure to just, all you have to do is just give them some thanks. If you're a closeted witch, like, you don't have to make them offerings or anything. If you just give them thanks and make sure they understand that you are thankful for everything they've given you, that should be more than enough. They don't require really more than that. So, let's talk more symbols that you can put on your altar, because I put these on. These are the main things, right? The Bridget's cross and the actual altar piece. But then there's other things, such as crystals, obviously. Crystals are associated with every celebration. Crystals, animals, colors. There's a whole bunch of stuff, so we're going to cover that here, okay? Okay, so for this portion, I will probably be looking at my phone a lot because I can remember a good portion of them, but there is a lot. So we're going to go over it. So first and foremost, let's go over the candle, because we've been talking a lot about the candle. So the candle can be, just right off the bat, for any celebration that you want to do, so any of the witch-based celebrations, from Yule to Imbolc to Samhain, doesn't matter. If you do not have the proper color of candle, you can always use a white candle. Always. It will not matter what you use it for. White candles are very neutral, and you can use them for most things. And that includes the celebrations. I use white candles for a lot of the celebrations because it is a very neutral candle and I can get a hold of one very easily. As you can see in my pocket one, let's see, you see, that's a white candle. So I use white candle, but other colors of candles that you can use are brown, green, pink, red, and yellow. So you can use any of those colors for candles. You can also do multiples if you want. That's obviously up to you. The actual, let's call it a ritual because it is kind of a ritual, really only requires one candle, but if you wish to celebrate more, you can always put up one of each color, or you can do multiple color, like you can do one color all around. My suggestion is, with any of these celebrations, that you stick to things that you know. I mean, that's a general rule of witchcrafting, no matter what. So keep that in your head. When you're doing things, try to keep in mind what you know and go with that, because usually that's the best course of action. Other than that, you can also choose things that you like. Nothing says that these rituals you cannot choose things that you like. So if you prefer the color yellow, or the color pink, or whichever, I would highly suggest that you at least either use that candle solely, or you include it somewhere. That would be my suggestion. So now let's talk about crystals. So again, I'm going to look at my phone. So the crystals are amethyst, bloodstone, garnet, ruby, onyx, and turquoise. Okay? You can put those crystals, you can put them all on your altar, or you can just put one on your altar. It doesn't matter. What I do, and sometimes I put them inside this altar, the pocket altar. Sometimes I just spread them around it, like make a circle around it on my altar, or sometimes I just lay them on my altar. It depends on how I feel and how I'm feeling it should be, if that makes sense. So I definitely suggest that you do that. Make sure your crystals are cleaned. So I would suggest that the full moon before any of these celebrations, any of them, make sure you cleanse what needs to be cleansed in the moonlight. So I would suggest things like crystals, things like, maybe not, you don't really need to do incense because it itself is kind of a cleansing thing. It's kind of a oxymoron slash, it's kind of a repetitive, you know, it's not necessary. Anyway, so I would suggest cleansing under the moonlight your crystals, any tools you'll be using for the celebrations, any candles you might be using for the celebrations, and any like offerings that you might be giving that might be other than food. There, we'll put it that way. Other than food and drink, make sure to cleanse any other offering you might be giving in the moonlight. The actual altars will be dependent. Bleh, will depend is what I'm trying to say. Be dependent. Will depend whether you charge them in the moonlight or in the sunlight. Is what I'm trying to say. My goodness. By the god and goddess, help me. Anyway, so yes, so like for Imbolc, I would suggest the sun. That is truly what I would suggest for cleansing an Imbolc altar. And my phone just went off. It went on to the save screen, so I couldn't look at it. I was like, what's next? And it was like, nope, sorry, you can't look at me. So give me just one moment. So now for symbolic items that you can put on the altar. These can literally be symbols, so they can be statues, or they can be like little cutouts or pictures even. And for animals, I would suggest you can use any sort of burrowing animal. This includes also bear, deer, lamb, and sheep. Lambs go with sheep, so it can be either the babies or the adults, basically. And these are animals that you can put on your altar as representations, basically. Now, in addition, you can also do berries and flowers, and this is why I said flowers are good, right? So you can do acorns, angelica, basil, bay, which the bay leaves, right? Blackberry, chamomile, crocus, jasmine, lavender, or rosemary. So that's why I put the rosemary, and I put the lavender in my little altar. I hope I said rosemary at the beginning. I think I did. If I didn't, I apologize, because it is supposed to be rosemary. I might have screwed that up. So if I did, I apologize. It is supposed. I meant to say rosemary. I think I might have said thyme. If I did, ignore that. It's not thyme. It's lavender and rosemary. And I just realized that reading it, I was like, it's supposed to be rosemary. So I think I said that wrong. But anyway, so you can put those, like how I did, you can mix them in with the salt, or I do highly suggest that you keep to having the bay leaves standing up, because that is kind of a generalistic practice, is to have whole bay leaves on or near or in the altar in this case. So you can do any one of those, and it should be just fine. So I think we're nearing the end here. So incense. Let's talk incense and what you burn. So again, burning of incense was done during these celebrations, and during most celebrations, to be honest, back in the day, and are actually used today too in some, ceremonies, depending on the culture. So if you're going to burn incense, you would burn it at the same time that you are burning the candle. And if you're going to do that, you want angelica, basil, bay, blackberry, chamomile, frankincense, jasmine, lavender, myrrh, or rosemary. Or you can combine a few of those. So if you buy the powdered resin, you can mix your own resin mixture. So you would just put a little bit of, like, a pinch of each into it, and then you could burn a charcoal disc and sprinkle that on top and use that instead. If not, you can burn incense sticks. You could burn multiples of those, varyings of those. Again, try to go with something that you like the smell of, because again, these are very much, you are putting out your energy for these rituals. So you always have to be sort of a part of it. You must be a part of it. Our souls are like batteries. And as a witch, you have that battery at your disposal for any of your craft. Literally. You can put it forward to anything that you want to do. So just remember that. So if it makes you happy, if you like the smell and stuff, you're going to put out energy into your craft that way. Okay? Now, let's talk trees real quick, because trees, now, again, nature in general is always a big part of any ritual that you want to do in witchcraft, okay? So, of course, during celebratory rituals, you're going to want to include as much nature as you possibly can. We started with the herbs, flowers, crystals. That's all natural, and you all put it into it. So now we're going to talk trees. So if you want to include a piece of a tree, just remember that you don't want to pull it from a tree. Always make sure you take from the ground, where it has already been naturally shed to the ground by whatever means. As long as it's on the ground, you can freely take it. Make sure you give thanks, though, when you take it. Take it with, praise. Say, thank you for this gift. I'm going to take this and put it in a ritual, right? So the trees are birch, evergreen, and willow. Those are your three main trees that you can use in Imbolc. From those trees, you can take, from the ground, you can take branches, you can take leaves, berries, if they produce berries. Scratch that. I know for a fact neither of those produce berries, sorry. But in terms of other rituals, though, for other celebrations, if a tree does produce berries, you can take the berries. But, you can take pine cones, acorns, if they produce acorns, right? Take pine needles, or, in this case, evergreen needles. They do sort of shed them, again, just be careful, right? Don't take them from the tree. Make sure they're on the ground. Yeah. You can even grab, pieces of bark if they've flaked off. I know birch and willow sometimes shed, they don't shed them a lot. Well, birch does, but anyway. They are trees that will shed their bark a little bit, so you can easily pick up the bark and take and use that, right? So, yeah, so, leaves, needles, acorns, pine cones, bark, branches, berries. Basically, all this stuff is up for grabs as long as it's on the ground, and you can take it and bring it back and use it in a ritual. Just make sure you obviously prepare it and stuff, because you don't want it being, you can wash it and things like that, right? Okay, so I think we've mostly covered, let me just make sure. Yeah, so we have covered pretty much the entirety of Imbolc in this video now, so I hope my rambling wasn't too bad, and I hope that my information that I gave you was very helpful. I hope that it helps any new witches out there who want to, I should say, get into witchcraft and need that information, is what I'm trying to say. I hope this helped you a lot, and I hope that it kind of helps those who are kind of closeted to still celebrate and participate, but in a safe and good way. And yeah, I hope that this helps some people, because that's what I'm here for, to be quite honest. I just want to help some new witches get into the craft and start practicing and knowing how to practice in a safe and good way. Okay? So I hope this helped, and hope you all stay spooky. The spooky season is upon us, so I hope that you are having some fun in October. I know I'm preparing for Halloween, so Samhain, which is coming up, and I am in such a good mood this month. I love Halloween, so, and in more ways than one. So have a good day, everybody. I hope you have a good day, good night, and I hope you stay spooky.